On this Sunday night, a terror attack targeting Pride. German police killed a man suspected of attacking one of Europe's largest LGBTQ+ celebrations.
We are feeling not free at the moment.
New details on the suspect and the victims. By-election call.
This is a test for Mark Carney to see how well he's doing.
The Prime Minister sets a date for 3 votes this summer to decide the balance of power in Ottawa. Fires and floods. Extreme weather pummels Western Canada. Plus, feeling the sting from U.S. tariffs.
We really only have 3 markets for our Canadian honey.
Why Canadian beekeepers find themselves in Donald Trump's crosshairs.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Germany's largest Pride celebration turned tragic last night in what authorities are now calling a terror attack. Police say a man drove a vehicle into the crowd and then went on a stabbing spree, killing 1 person and injuring 29 others. The attack sparked a massive manhunt, and late today, German police found, shot, and killed the 21-year-old suspect. Police say he was an Islamist extremist. Thousands of Germans gathered today to show their solidarity with the LGBTQ+ community and the victims. Well, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney offered his condolences, writing that no one should face hatred or violence because of who they are or who they love. Candice Cole reports.
21-year-old Abdul Balou, the man suspected of plowing this van into a massive crowd of people Saturday during a pride parade in Berlin's Tiergarten Park, then attacking others with a machete, is now dead. According to Berlin police, Balou was found around 6 p.m. local time at a garden shed in Berlin's Spandau district, about 11 kilometers from where the attack took place.
Der Tatverdächtige ist hier mit einer...
Police say when they discovered Balou, he charged at them with a knife and was shot dead by police on the scene. 1 woman was killed and at least 29 others were injured in Saturday's attack as parade goers celebrated Christopher Street Day, one of Europe's largest LGBTQ+ celebrations. This video showing crowds being evacuated just moments after the attack. Large crowds gathered outside of Berlin's Brandenburg Gate earlier Sunday, trying to make sense of what happened.
Ein Fest von Toleranz und Liebe so angreifen.
Like this woman asking how someone can attack a celebration based on love and tolerance.
We are feeling not free at the moment. You know, some people very right, you know, AfD, yes, it's not good, but it makes not comfortable.
Und wir werden nicht zulassen.
Outside a church in Berlin Sunday, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz urged people to not be intimidated, vowing not to allow the, quote, poison of terrorism to spread throughout society. Authorities believe Saturday's attack is an Islamist terrorist plot.
In der Vergangenheit auffällig war.
According to Germany's interior minister, Balou was already known to police for committing other crimes and had a history of radicalization. Balou is a German national of Lebanese descent. Authorities say he made several attempts to leave Germany to join the Islamic State. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
Toronto police are investigating after 2 Jewish-owned bakeries were targeted by suspected hate attacks. Officers were called to both locations just 20 minutes apart. The windows were shattered and one of the businesses was struck by gunfire at around 8 o'clock this morning. No one was injured. Prime Minister Mark Carney has called 3 by-elections to be held this summer in BC, Ontario and Quebec. The votes will take place on August 31st, and the Liberals will need to win at least one of the 3 to maintain their majority. Jillian Piper reports on the candidates and the stakes.
The race is on in North Vancouver Capilano, one of 3 by-elections that will test the Liberals' razor-thin majority.
This is a really important by-election.
Longtime Liberal Braden Cayley, who served as a former advisor to Mark Carney, running to replace former Cabinet Minister Jonathan Wilkinson, despite not living in the riding for more than a decade.
We're focused on bringing people together, real solutions, a real plan, real prosperity for people here.
Meanwhile, Conservative lawyer Stephen Curran highlights his local roots.
He walks the same streets and wonders whether our kids will be able to stay in this beautiful community.
The BC riding not the only vacant seat held by a former Liberal cabinet minister, with candidates in Toronto's Beaches East York vying to replace Nate Erskine-Smith. The Liberals only need to win one in order to keep their majority, but strategists say the party should not take anything for granted.
People are either vacationing or at home, so voter turnout is always going to be a challenge.
The tightest race is expected to be a three-way face-off between the Conservatives, Liberals and Bloc Québécois in a rural Quebec riding, which former Conservative MP Richard Martel vacated earlier this month when Carney appointed him to the Senate.
In last year's federal election, we saw only 3 points separating first to third place. This is a test for Mark Carney to see how well he's doing in Francophone Quebec.
It's also a test for Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. 5 MPs have left Poilievre's caucus since the last federal election, and public Conservative infighting in recent weeks has prompted questions over his ability to unite the party.
Nothing would slow that down or silence that like a couple of by-election victories.
Carney's government already pulling out some major stops that could win favor with by-election voters.
The Billy Bishop Airport in Toronto now seemingly has been resolved through a very quick review of the consultation before the by-election call.
After these 3 votes on August 31st, another wave of by-elections is expected, where 3 Quebec seats and another in Saskatchewan will all be up for grabs. Jeff?
Jillian Piper in Ottawa, thanks. Well, after months of delays and political gridlock, the Gordie Howe International Bridge is expected to open to traffic tomorrow. The bridge connects Windsor, Ontario and Detroit, Michigan, the busiest trade corridor between the two countries. A ribbon-cutting ceremony was held on the Canadian side on Friday, but the Americans were disinvited after President Trump's latest tariff threat. And the president himself is expected to make an appearance tomorrow. Our Sean O'Shea is in Windsor tonight with more on what to expect. Sean.
Jeff, on the eve of the anticipated opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge, there is at least still some lingering concern that it may be delayed again, considering the ongoing trade situation between Canada and the United States. The Gordie Howe Bridge linking Windsor, Ontario to Detroit, Michigan, a gleaming 2.5-kilometer long structure crossing the river separating Canada and the United States. A bridge that cost more than $6 billion, paid for by Canadians.
Every day that this bridge is not open is lost economic activity for Canada.
Former MP Brian Massey was a city councillor in the late 90s when a new bridge was just an idea to solve local traffic congestion beside the existing bridge.
The trucks were almost like long trains, and you couldn't get across.
Canada celebrated the new bridge at a ceremony here Friday, but disinvited American politicians because of increasing trade tensions and threatened new U.S. tariffs.
We're standing together. We're standing against uncertainty, against threats, against bullies.
The bridge is named after one of Canada's most famous hockey legends who played 25 NHL seasons in Detroit.
This bridge is a game changer, just like Gordie Howe was in his day. And we prepare to welcome first crossings on Monday.
The minister held up crossed fingers as he made the point.
Our understanding is we're opening the bridge on Monday. We're really looking forward to that. The systems are all go here.
The U.S. president stood in the way of opening once before, until Canada cut a more favorable deal for the U.S. on bridge toll revenues.
I've always said until I can actually cross the border, I'm not satisfied. And so that hasn't happened yet.
New competition for the nearby Ambassador Bridge, owned by a wealthy Trump donor, that will no longer be the exclusive commercial crossing between these two cities, a corridor that sees about $1 billion in trade every day. U.S. President Donald Trump will be in Michigan Monday at a General Motors facility talking about American manufacturing. Whether he plans to pay some kind of a visit to this bridge is still unknown. Jeff.
Sean O'Shea in Windsor, Ontario tonight. Thanks, Sean. Turning to the wildfire fight in BC now. Around 145 fires are burning in that province tonight. Around half of those are out of control. In the southern interior, fire crews are fighting to save the village of Clinton after 2 nearby wildfires merged overnight. Taya Fast is near the town for us tonight. So Taya, how are things looking from there?
We're standing about 20 kilometers outside of Clinton along Highway 97, which is as close as you can get to the community right now. And while crews are still fighting to keep the fires from growing, there is some good news. The village of Clinton seems to have been largely spared from major losses. After another tense day and night, local officials say the vast majority of homes in Clinton are still standing, despite flames from the Pear Lake wildfire reaching the edge of the community. Some structures were lost, but crews are working to assess the extent of the damage. BC Wildfire says the Pear Lake wildfire and 59 Creek fire merged late Saturday and crossed Highway 97 and remained very active Sunday morning, moving north and northeast of the Chicoutimi area. And while temperatures are expected to be slightly cooler again Sunday, warm, dry, and windy conditions mean fire activity is still expected to pick up through the afternoon, with more smoke likely in the days ahead.
With the underlying drought conditions in the area, they're very susceptible to ignition. So there's still the potential for that high level of activity and for increased growth on these incidents.
Evacuation orders for the entire village of Clinton and surrounding communities remains in place, impacting hundreds of people. Jeff?
Taya Fast near Clinton, BC tonight. Thanks, Taya. Well, from fires in BC to flooding in Alberta, Edmonton was rocked by a severe thunderstorm, flooding streets and canceling a concert. People at this Post Malone concert were running for cover during the heavy downpour as lightning lit up the sky above the stadium, along with strong winds, rain, and hail. Streets were flooded, with some people needing to be rescued by boat. And wildfires in France and Spain have now forced more than 300,000 people to evacuate. Spanish crews are making progress, bringing fires in the Madrid region under control, but the situation remains volatile in France. A large fire is pushing closer to Bordeaux, the famed wine-growing region, though its mayor says there are no plans to evacuate yet. The U.S. president has now ordered a pause to military strikes on Iran in an apparent bid to restart peace talks. Reports say the U.S. military is running low on air defense munitions in the region, though the White House disputes that.
As the president said, we are locked and loaded. Even more assets are going into theater, but he's giving talks some space. He's giving it a little bit of room.
In response, Iran says it's also halting strikes. The pause ends 2 weeks of tit-for-tat attacks. Meanwhile, diplomats from Oman and Iran held talks today on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. From Dr. Google to Dr. ChatGPT. Coming up, a cautionary tale about using artificial intelligence for medical advice. Plus, sweet and sour, why Canadian honey is in the crosshairs of the U.S. president. Well, it's a cautionary tale about using artificial intelligence for medical advice. A Florida pastor who asked ChatGPT about his symptoms says he received extremely dangerous guidance that could have killed him. Taria Isri has his story.
First, it was Dr. Google. Now it's Dr. ChatGPT.
It talks to you like it's your best friend that's a doctor and is all-knowing.
American Scott Winters turned to AI for help and alleges the medical advice he received put his life at risk. The 55-year-old Florida pastor is suing OpenAI and CEO Sam Altman, claiming ChatGPT downplayed the severity of his symptoms.
The way it manipulated me, the way it used my faith, the way it talked to me, it would give me Bible verses and told me, God was with me. It would give me a prayer.
Winters says he was eventually hospitalized for a life-threatening pulmonary embolism, blood clots in the lungs. In a statement, OpenAI says ChatGPT is not a doctor and should never be used as a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment.
We have a follow-up appointment.
OpenAI has just launched ChatGPT Health in the U.S., which encourages users to upload their medical records.
Like a lot of things, it's kind of user beware.
The Canadian Medical Association says more patients here are also turning to chatbots.
Part of the reason they're going to AI and going online is because a lot of them don't have access to family doctor, right? It's 1 in 6 Canadians don't have access to their own family doctor.
But health experts are urging caution. A recent study from the British Medical Journal found responses from AI chatbots were problematic nearly 50% of the time.
A lot of these chatbots and these AI tools, they're developed to please you.
Doctors say there is a role to play for AI in healthcare.
We have to approach these in a disciplined, structured manner aimed to helping society rather than generic tools that are meant to be sold.
The Florida plaintiff is seeking damages, and for the court to order ChatGPT to stop the rollout of its new health function until auditors can evaluate it and offer their own second opinion as to whether it's safe. Taria Isri, Global News, Montreal.
Still ahead, how allegations of child abuse in Saskatchewan's foster system were allegedly ignored. A Saskatchewan man is raising alarm about that province's foster care system. He claims he suffered horrific abuse as a child, and until recently he believed his allegations had simply been ignored. Melissa Ridgen reports, and a warning, some of the details are disturbing.
Child welfare files are carefully guarded. So James, whose identity we're protecting, didn't expect that when he asked for his from the Saskatchewan government, this is what he'd get. 1,085 pages documenting his childhood as a ward of the province.
It wasn't a surprise that CFS got involved with our life when they did. It was clearly needed. What is the issue with my specific case is what happened after the apprehension.
The small, shy 6-year-old was apprehended for alleged neglect and abuse that he says got worse in foster care.
They started telling me that there was conditions to living in their home, and the conditions were that the main one was that our payments came in on time, that no child in their home was going to live there for free. If we didn't do chores or we didn't talk properly to the foster father, we got kicked in the back. This foster boy was considerably older than me, and he would just molest me every night. And we were just degraded in this home and dehumanized.
Foster home after foster home. James wanted to see what was documented about the allegations he says he consistently disclosed to caseworkers. When the government gave him his file, he was shocked to see the allegations were all detailed by protection workers whose job it was to keep him safe. Here, a handwritten report from a caseworker about a shocking incident James alleged occurred.
I got out of the cage and I just ran to a friend's place. So while they're still banging on the door and yelling and demanding me home, this is the social worker who I'm on the phone with, and he's telling me to go back.
The file also shows that around the time James began reporting abuse, he was deemed a problem child who needed to be medicated. One doctor finally said, enough.
This is an actual child psychologist or psychiatrist in her field who was seeing me for many years, who was writing this. His temper problems in his previous foster home were likely due to the fact that he himself was being abused.
Police told him they lacked evidence to lay charges, but in these files, lots of evidence.
I wouldn't say it's always the norm, but I would say that it happens more often than you think it possibly could.
Lori Damon is a mental health clinician and advocate for change in the child welfare industry.
If children are apprehended because of abuse or neglect, how can the system possibly justify documenting the abuse of a child in its own care?
I don't know. I can't tell you what social workers think. There are supposed to be checks and balances in our system.
Saskatchewan's Ministry of Social Services says changes were made in 2024 to improve information sharing when a child discloses allegations of abuse, but they say privacy legislation prevents them from explaining how James wasn't protected. He's filed a complaint with the province's Human Rights Commission and started his own advocacy work to help others get their child welfare files. For answers, healing, and maybe even justice, Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
An unlikely tariff target. Up next, why Canada's honey industry is in a sticky situation. Welcome back. This is peak honey production season for bee farmers in the prairies, but they've just been stung by an unexpected tariff threat. Canada's honey industry is on the list of hundreds set to be hit by a 50% U.S. tariff starting in mid-August. Bee farmers were already contending with cool spring temperatures and wet weather, disrupting nectar supply and colony growth. Ashley Behrens has the buzz on the bees.
It's been a rough start to the season for beekeepers in the prairie provinces, with the late start to spring affecting their business.
It delayed their population buildup, so the queens didn't lay as many eggs as fast. That resulted in fewer bees for this time of year that we normally see, and that means we have fewer foragers out to go collect nectar from the canola crops and all the flowers that are out there right now.
Simon Lalonde, president of the Saskatchewan Beekeepers Development Commission, says because of that, most beekeepers will be looking at an average crop at best this year, but there is still a lot of summer left.
So the weather can play a role either way, and we don't really know until the end of September or early September when all the honey's in the barrels where the season ends up.
But Saskatchewan weather isn't the only challenge bee farmers are facing. They may soon feel the sting of U.S. tariffs. Honey is one of the products threatened by the proposed 50% U.S. levies announced for August 19th, and it's leaving farmers in uncertainty.
Our biggest concern is we really only have 3 markets for our Canadian honey. It either stays domestic within Canada, it goes to the U.S. or Japan. So losing the U.S. market basically means an extra 20% of Canadian honey either staying in Japan or trying to find those new markets.
Honey, as well as other products under threat of tariffs, were previously exempt under CUSMA. Honey being included on the auto parts annex gives Lalonde suspicion this is more than likely a negotiating tactic. Lalonde says Canada sends about 15 to 20% of our honey crop to the U.S., most of which is produced in the prairies, where the biggest impact will be felt.
Conversely, the U.S. imports about 450 million pounds. So we're only sending maybe 2% of what the U.S. actually consumes. This isn't a major concern for U.S. beekeepers. It's not as if Canadian honey is flooding the U.S. market and resulting in lower prices to them. That 2% is just, it's literally a drop in the bucket for what's heading south.
While Lalonde has full confidence in Canadian negotiators and is hopeful something will change in the next few weeks, he says it's a great time to buy local.
It doesn't take very much extra honey to show support to those local beekeepers, right? Buying it from where you know the source is coming from.
Ashley Behrens, Global News.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Jeff Semple, and in these dog days of summer, tonight's Your Canada is Calgary's Day of the Dog Festival.
1, 2, 3.
And they're off. This is the 13th edition for one of Calgary's largest pet-friendly events. It features dog races, fashion shows, pool parties, and even a rescue runway for adorable adoptables. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great night.